What's the last thing that happened to you in the last 24 hours? Well, regardless of what happened to you, you've got to be able to pivot and adapt to change. And that's why we have Adriana Cowdin. And she is empowering leaders to navigate change. She's an executive coach, 4 times entrepreneur and ex-CEO, featured in Forbes, New York Times, Inc. 500, ABC, and more. And she's an accomplished executive coach, entrepreneur, former C-suite leader, and she drove Decaf Digital to 400% growth, achieving a successful acquisition. And as interim CEO at a healthcare organization, she grew revenue from $3 million to $10 million. And she has a lot more accolades, but I'll let her say some of those. So the first question is, what's the secret to your success? Does it have anything to do with executive coaching?
Welcome to Awakened Titans podcast with Lily Patrascu. Mind-blowing conversations with influential business titans sharing how you can manifest abundance, love, joy, success through quantum awakening, quantum manifestation, quantum healing, quantum miracles, exponential business growth, and innovative products and services.
Great question. Thank you for having me, Lily. It's absolutely an honor to be here. And I'm going to pivot on what you said. You know, the biggest secret to my success is really staying adaptable and focusing on value creation, even when you're facing challenges, right? So whether it's during the 2008 economic downturn or high stakes business transformations, or many of us went through COVID rather recently, I've really consistently leveraged my ability to pivot, innovate, lead teams to execute powerful strategies. And I think when you wrap in executive coaching, it's enabling someone to be a successful coach for you when you're an executive, in my case, or as an executive coach, understanding the seat that they're in. You know, success isn't just about avoiding those obstacles. It's about staying resilient, adapting quickly, and then never losing sight of what you can deliver for your client and your team.
Thank you. Now, your company is all about being bold in terms of executive coaching. So tell us more about your journey to becoming bold, and how did you take this courage to the world in terms of stats and numerical things that you've achieved to inspire the world?
I think the most important thing about this journey has been, for me and for anyone kind of on this path, whether you're an executive or you're an entrepreneur, you really have to learn what your own strengths are and then create a vision around that, right? So my blueprint has always been centered around executing with precision, surrounding myself with really smart, talented people, and then continuously innovating. It's, you know, whether you're embracing discomfort or pushing boundaries, you've got to constantly be learning. And that's really your whole life, right? So that's both my personal life, that's my business life. I try and look at everything as, how can I have this journey be purpose-driven, results-oriented? Like you said, you know, growing my last business 400% year over year, or when I was sitting in as an executive in Fortune 500, delivering like 1,200% growth in profit in 1 year. It's really about constantly evolving towards that next level.
Wow, amazing. So tell us more about how entrepreneurs can elevate their lives through executive coaching.
So in terms of being an entrepreneur working with an executive coach, I think the first thing is make sure you find an executive coach that you naturally connect with. I always say, like, I'm not for everyone. Everyone's not the right client for me. And that's the case. It's a very close relationship. So it has to be someone that you naturally connect with. But then the next thing is, work with someone who's scaled a business, who's adapted through challenges, who is relentlessly focused on the same results that you're focused on. So I'm very profit and revenue focused, team focused, highly loyal, and client focused. People have different goals, right? So make sure you identify an executive coach that aligns with your goals. You get really clear, and they have navigated that path before, even either on their own or with other entrepreneurs and executives.
Thank you. Tell us what have been the most exciting things that have enabled you to create this kind of growth of 400% year on year?
For me, it's about relationships. And I think that's the case for everyone, right? So the stronger your relationship, whether it's a strategic partner, which is how Decaf grew so fast for those years. We had some really smart strategic partnerships. I invested a lot in those relationships, or whether it's through communication. We're human. Everyone's going to make mistakes so often. So the stronger your relationships are, the more there's forgiveness there, right? So it's really a matter of investing in relationships, whether it's relationships with your advisory board, your team members, your leadership board, your clients, your partners. Taking those relationships seriously allows you to have really strong leadership, and then you can focus on your strategic vision because everyone else is empowered around you.
Thank you. In terms of having such a, you can say, massive growth, and really like outdoing your competition and just like creating this titanic progress, how do you kind of get the buy-in of everyone in your company in order to kind of like align with your vision of, this is what's possible for us to kind of grow on a titanic level? Because I think most people don't think on such a titanic level. They are, more, have more, not realistic numbers, but they are thinking, on a smaller kind of level.
Yeah. I had a conversation with someone recently. I was talking about a particular client growing to 7 million. And this client said to me, oh my gosh, I'm thinking about like, how am I going to come up with the $7,000 to pay my taxes? Not like 7 million. And to your point, people think differently, right? So it's about empowering others through strategic leadership. So as an entrepreneur or an executive, you really have to lean into your team and empower them to understand the why of your vision. And a lot of that comes down to communication. I always say you can't share everything all the time, right? There's the secret sauce. There's the, hey, we're going to launch this product. Not the market can't know yet. But the most information you can share in the most direct and transparent way, you're going to get your team to buy in, whether that team is your client group, people who work for you, your leadership team, or your board. They're going to buy in. The other thing is, don't just surround yourself with the yes answers, right? Bring in those people in any of those capacities that are going to challenge you and say, hey, I get why you're thinking about growing this product line to 7 million, but have you considered A, B, or C? That allows for stronger alignment when you all get there, and it allows for much better long-term goal success. So surround yourself with people that are going to positively and constructively challenge you.
Thank you. When you work with entrepreneurs, I'm assuming you have such a wide range of potential entrepreneurs you work with in terms of executive coaching. And I wonder about, for those entrepreneurs that are highly creative, so much so that they have too many ideas, what do you recommend they do in terms of when you work with those kind of entrepreneurs? What's your typical process to kind of get them to achieve more on a Titanic level? Because let's say they're already thinking on a Titanic level what they want to do, and they're on their path to doing, but they have so many different things, that there are so many plates they're spinning at the same time. So what's your process for kind of ensuring that they perform and optimize their performance to the best possible level, not spread themselves too thin?
So that is such a great question. I think the first thing I do with all of them is we align on their goals. So I have them do a worksheet that is nothing more than writing down what are 10 goals you want to achieve in the next 12 months. And I always make sure that they're not just written in a smart way, time-bound, achievable, measurable, but that they are written in the present tense. So, my company achieves X revenue by 12 months, right? And then I say, okay, if I had a magic wand and I could make one of these reality in the next 24 hours, which one would it be? And you would be surprised at how fast that jumps off the page to them. And I go, okay, now that we know what your actual top goal is, it's a lot easier to coach them to get their energy behind that goal, right? So it might jump off the page and be There might have been a revenue-based one, there might have been a talent-based one, and it might come down to the fact that what they really want to do is expand their solutions, their offerings. But like I said, it really does jump off the page, and that's where we centralize. And so for an entrepreneur, once you get your mind aligned to what your primary goal is, it's a lot easier to achieve success, particularly when you've got someone coaching you along the way.
Thank you. What are the top 5 most effective techniques for coaching you've used that have had tremendous success with your clients?
The first one and the most important is to embrace change. Like, you're going to have all kinds of change that's going to happen, those aha moments, and it's going to be uncomfortable. The second is to trust yourself and trust your coach. You've got to trust the process. You've got to believe in yourself. The third is lead with confidence. So to your point, if you're going to be a Titan and have huge success, you've got to convey confidence. Even when you're feeling the imposter syndrome come up, you have to convey that confidence. So make sure you're talking to your executive coach about, hey, I'm sitting in a space of fear right now, and I need my company not to see that, right? And then I would say it's about being authentic to who you are. When you're an entrepreneur, your company becomes like a child of yours. So the culture is built on you, the team, the solutions, all of that. And that really means you have to be authentic to you so that finally your results can come.
Thank you. What are the top ways for entrepreneurs to overcome procrastination and achieve more of what they truly desire?
So one of my favorite things, I'm very old school, is to get like an actual planner that goes through a process. So you break down your goals to monthly, weekly, daily, and then you break your day up. Some of us are morning people, some of us are afternoon people. I like to siesta in the afternoon for a few hours and then come back online at 7 p.m. You've got to build a way that your day works for you and structure it so that you can see progress consistently. If you have a to-do list of 15 things, you're not getting through it in one day. And so you're going to be at the end of the day going, oh my gosh, I got nothing done. And that's just going to, push you down. You've got to say, here are my top 3 priorities today. I'm going to get these 3 done and hopefully more than that. But you just don't know as an entrepreneur what's going to pop up in the middle of the day.
Thank you. For those entrepreneurs that are Titans, but they're managing an illness, what do you suggest they do in terms of still managing to kind of get their tasks done and, not allowing the illness to kind of overcome them?
Well, this one I can speak on. I have 32 medical conditions, 10 of which are chronic diseases, and have had, I think, 25 surgeries in the last 9 years. So I live daily with this. And my number one strategy is know your boundaries. So for me, I work from like 5 a.m. to 2 p.m. I don't take meetings after 12:30, and I have one non-meeting day every week. That allows me to be my best when I'm on. And it gives me the flexibility to manage the illnesses I have, right? And manage the situations that come up with that. It also allows me to fit in all those doctor's appointments that those of us with illnesses have to manage as well. So understand your boundaries, communicate those boundaries to those around you, and allow them to come back to you and say, hey, I noticed this boundary is kind of being pushed. In my case, I noticed you're scheduling meetings on your non-meeting day. Let's get you back to this.
Thank you. For those entrepreneurs struggling with negativity coming from clients and being easily put down by their external situations and circumstances, like let's say, a client is unhappy about something and they kind of like feel down for an entire day because of it, and therefore an entire day of potentially constructive work gets procrastinated to another day. What would you recommend they do in order to get themselves back up quickly so they can become productive and stay productive for days on end?
So one of my favorite tricks I call it worry o'clock. So find a time in the day that you're okay worrying, whether it's about the client or you're just going to feel down, because our brains have to feel that, right? So be like, every day at this time is worry o'clock. And then if things pop up at other times of the day, tell your brain, tomorrow at 3:30 is worry o'clock. We'll deal with that then, because it gives you and okay to say, hey, I can worry for this 30 minutes. That's when I'm going to worry. But it also brings you back out of it and says, okay, now that it's 4 o'clock, worry o'clock is over. I got to power through and move on. So give yourself permission to not only have that fear, have that frustration, have that worry time, but also the permission to let it go and move on.
Thank you. For those entrepreneurs struggling with marital, spousal, or partner problems, what do you recommend they do when they find themselves in their head all day long?
First of all, I'm a big fan of therapy. So like get a marriage counselor, because we tend to talk past each other when we're in relationships like that. And that person can see outside of it, right? The second is understand what's actually going on in your relationship. Is it that you're working too much? Many entrepreneurs, we tend to be workaholics. And so we bring work home, we're on the phone at the dinner table or whatever it is. And it could be something as simple as saying, what exactly is bothering you and what can I do to make it better? Always reflect on yourself and your behavior, because you are the only thing you have control over. What you say, think, do, and feel, that's it. You can't change your partner. So look at how you can change yourself in order to improve your relationship at home.
Thank you. What's the best way to overcome failure? And for those entrepreneurs that are so down by failure for many days and are struggling to kind of come back up, knowing that deep down they are a Titan, they've always been a Titan, they've always been a champion, but are finding themselves sometimes when they have a really massive failure that they simply cannot get themselves back up.
I think the first thing is understand why the failure occurred, right? So you can look at so many entrepreneurs that have been successful. Henry Ford, Colonel Sanders from KFC, that Walt Disney, that failed plenty of times before they were ever super successful. So first, I have a plaque on my desk that says, never, never, never give up. It's engraved plaque. And that's kind of where my mindset goes. The flip side of that is I started a business in the late 90s that was decades too early. And I was so committed to it being successful that when it failed, I took it very personally. But I sat back and thought, okay, is it the product? Is it the customer? Is it me? So you really have to analyze what it is. And then you have to let it go. You have to say, okay, this failed. I'm going to take the no that happened there and turn it to on and move on. Because you can't get stuck in that yuckiness of the failure, or your mindset takes over too. And you're like, I'm going to fail at everything. You have to say, hey, sometimes failure is the biggest teacher. I'm going to learn from this and I'm going to move on and do better or different next time.
Thank you. How did you manage to find the energy, the enthusiasm, the motivation, the resilience to keep going and become so successful despite all the medical issues and you can say potential obstacles and, nasty clients and all the other potential things that could occur in your business?
I think two things. One, I have an amazing support community. I am blessed with a fantastic husband and family that supports me in every way. Two, I listen. And that is probably the hardest skill I've ever had to figure out how to do. And I remind myself, there's 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. So listening twice as much as you talk, but I listen to my body. I listen to my community when they say you're pushing it too hard. I listen to my doctors when they say you've got to take a day off or you've got to take a week off. And I listen to those around me that I know have my best interest at heart and say, okay, if they're telling me this, they're seeing something I'm not seeing. So I need to pay attention to that.
Thank you. What's the best way to deal with entrepreneurs who are struggling with, let's say, if they have business partners that work with them and those business partners are also, their partner, life partner, whatever, and they are both going in completely different opposite directions in terms of their vision and what they desire to do and the way that they want to make it happen as well?
I would say come to the table from a perspective of seeking to understand, both of you, right? So it's even harder when your relationship partner in life is also your business partner. The reality is probably neither of them are wrong. You're just going about it different because you think differently. And quite honestly, that's probably why you love the other person. So come to the table seeking to understand, what is your perspective? Why are you going about this result in this manner so that I can understand. And then reflect on that and say, okay, is this a better way? Can I share why I'm going about it in this way, etc.? My husband is a rocket scientist by education, so he thinks very analytically, like every word has meaning. And we literally just had this conversation the other day. I said, I think of this problem differently than you. It's not wrong. It's just different. Here's the perspective I'm coming from. And helping to understand where your partner is coming from and sharing where you're coming from gets you to that resolution and out of kind of the struggle back and forth.
Thank you. What's the best way for entrepreneurs to remain motivated for many years to come, despite their business going up and down?
Yeah, I mean, entrepreneurship is a roller coaster. Everything is up and down. 1 month's great, 1 year is great, one's bad. The reality is, if you set out to solve a problem in the world or for a customer base, and you decide in the beginning, this company is going to have this culture, look like this, generate this financially or for customers, it allows you to stay motivated. So you just have to set out what is the ultimate goal. Every time I've started a company, I've started with our 5-year achievement plan. Like in 5 years, this is where we're going to be. I don't exactly know how we're going to get there, but that allows me in those difficult times to say, okay, I'm doing this for a bigger reason, right? I'm doing this to solve this need or to achieve this milestone or make this impact on the world. That's where that intrinsic motivation has to come from. And you'll often find it is not going to be tied to money. If you start out and go, I'm just going to create a $500 million business, you'll be going in so many different directions because all you're doing is chasing a dollar. You're not solving a problem or focusing on a customer.
Thank you. What's the best way for entrepreneurs to deal with disappointment? And the reason I ask this is that I remember many years ago, some people scammed me, some people didn't pay me. Some people did other things. And I found myself for long periods of time, like even, let's say, after work, I would go to the park, and it was so difficult to actually overcome that feeling of anger, which kind of was lingering for a few months. So I do wonder, like, how you suggest entrepreneurs should deal with disappointment.
I think, first of all, acknowledge it, right? There's a reason you're disappointed for whatever the scenario was. Second of all, do something like you did. Go to the park. In my case, I go for a walk. Let your body move so that your mind can move and you don't get stuck in that. And then third of all, expect it. We're going to get disappointed. People, customers, team members, board members, they're going to do something to disappoint you. That's part of this journey. And that takes away that unexpected, like, oh my gosh, why did this happen? I remember from Decaf, probably in 2022, we were sued by someone I considered very close in the company who left the company and sued us for a lot of money, claiming employment issues. And I was like, what is going on? Like, we treat our people great. So I took that hard, but I did exactly what I said. I went for a walk, I processed it. And now I can tell you, I'm always expecting someone to sue us. I'm like, okay, we're just going to get this. And thank God I had planned and we had insurance, but expect the worst, because people are going to, the more successful you are, the more people are going to try and knock you down.
Thank you. What were some of your most successful marketing techniques that you used that worked?
So I think one of the most successful ones is a referral program. And that's probably because I invest so much in relationships that it works really well. The second, consistently through every company I have owned, has been strategic partners. So whether it's another agency that we're white labeling for, in Decaf's case, whether it was partnering with John Deere in the case of my company in the 90s to roll things out to their franchise. We have strategic partners at Be Bold and in executive coaching. Finding those strategic partners and communicating really clearly the value you offer them. I always say, like, 100% of zero is still zero. So be free to, give out a referral bonus, give a percentage of revenue back to those people who drive those customers your way. Those relationships will take care of you in the long term.
Thank you. What do you feel made you kind of get to this particular level in terms of success? what would you feel is like your unique sauce?
I would say my unique sauce is a combination of being authentic and confident. So I never go in a room like, oh, I shouldn't be here. I don't know what I'm doing. Even if I don't know what I'm doing, I go in confident, but I'm always very authentic. So I'm not, I don't intimidate people. I mean, maybe I do, but not intentionally. And I kind of have this self-depreciating humor that people are like, she's so easy to relate to because she doesn't think of herself as some big successful person. Yes, she's confident, but I really do balance that with being an authentic and genuine person.
Thank you. Tell us 3 of your case studies of entrepreneurs you've worked, and what techniques do you feel have worked in terms of helping them to achieve, higher turnover or more success or more love or whatever it was that they desired?
Yeah. So the first one I'm thinking of was pivoting out of finance and Wall Street to become a health coach. So very different. And so part of it for him was understanding what is the best way that we can market, who is your customer. And again, going back to that first topic, I said, what is your goal in the next 12 months that we're going to centralize and navigate you to achieve? And so for him, it was, I want to achieve X amount of clients by this date. That's a great goal. But then I broke it down. I was like, well, what does that mean? I could get you 100 clients that don't pay you anything. What does that really mean to you? Is it that you're improving their lives, or is it monetary, or is it both? So that's one of the ones I'm thinking of. The second is one that did have to do a lot of transition. They were shutting down the business, percentage of the business, I should say. And they had to make some really tough decisions around who do we keep, what operations do we close, what services do we no longer offer, how do we communicate to our clients. And for that person, it was getting back to themselves and saying, why did I start the business and why has this change happened? And then we can identify the best way to communicate it. And that allows people to feel like they're being taken care of, whether that person is your team member or your client or another interaction. I think the third one is launching a new business. A lot of entrepreneurs are new. And so one was someone who was looking for a new opportunity in a W-2 job for a long time, but had a background in consulting. And I've just pivoted and said, listen, I think you're better in consulting. I think you like it more. And he was like, I do. I just don't know if I can come up with the money, like in revenue. And I was like, oh, let's come up with what we need to create in revenue. Let's solve for that as opposed to trying to do the wrong thing to get to that result. And so for him, it was about leaning into a workshop that he had created decades ago that was crazy successful, and really figuring out how do we price this in a way and market and sell it in a way that achieves that revenue goal for you, so you're doing what you love still. So whether it's growth financially, growth customers, starting a new business, it's really understanding what is your primary driving motivation and factor, and leaning into that.
Thank you. What was the most difficult situation you've had to deal with, and how did you come out of it?
I think the most difficult situation I had to deal with was actually shutting down the company in the 90s, the HR company I had started. And just fully transparently, I didn't deal with it well at the time. I was a lot younger and thought, life was over for probably 3 months. And over time, I was really smart about getting I got an executive coach. I worked with a therapist, and for lack of a better reason, I just threw myself into exercise. So I was like, I am just going to get physically fit if I can't get financially and business fit. And what it did was make me a lot more resilient and a lot stronger. So the next time I went out for a company, I looked at it differently. I structured it differently. And as we had bumps in the road or those ups and downs, I just kind of rode through them with confidence. Like, this is going to happen. We need to keep going.
Thank you. What was the most difficult situation you've dealt with in terms of a client, in terms of executive coaching? And how did you solve it?
Yeah, I think honestly, the most difficult situation for me as an executive coach is a client that wants to do the work but doesn't actually do the work. So shows up to the session late, or cancels or reschedules and then does none of the between session work. And I handled it by terminating them. So you have to be strong in your business also and say, I'm not going to let the client control how this goes. I've done this for decades. I know the best way to get results. And if this is not the right fit, I'm not going to keep working with them just for the sake of the dollars, right? The other thing is, we have a really clear agreement that outlines what they can expect working with me as their executive coach and what I expect working with them as my client. And so if they break that, I am immediately focused on, hey, this has been breached. Let's get it back to solidified, or let's move on.
Thank you. How did you turn the situation around from perhaps initially when you started your business, perhaps chasing clients, to now becoming an attractor of clients for yourself and also for the businesses that you help?
So personal branding more than anything. I am very focused on what I do is empower entrepreneurs and executives to navigate change with clarity and confidence. I don't pretend to be an expert in everything because no one is, but I'm really good in personal branding and branding yourself in a way that shows what you do. Thankfully, I figured out how to do it for myself too. And I lean into the things that not only I like to do, but that work. So for example, I really like writing blogs. Well, that's not as popular anymore as it used to be, but videos are short form videos, right? So now I do short form videos. I don't like them, but they're effective, they work, and I'm getting used to it. So stretching outside your comfort zone to align with your brand and meet your customer where they are. If they're consuming content on TikTok, then you got to meet them on TikTok. And that may not be comfortable, but you have to pivot and innovate.
Thank you. Where's the best place for entrepreneurs to find you?
BeBoldExecutiveCoaching.com. Just how it sounds, BeBoldExecutiveCoaching.com, or you can go on LinkedIn and look for Adriana Cowdin. There's only one of me, so it's pretty easy to find.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential business titans, providing you with the insights to awaken to your full potential, so you can get paid to be yourself, find true happiness, and manifest anything you desire.